John Mercer stood at the viewport, watching the massive Valkyrie ship approach. His hand rested on his sidearm out of habit. 20 years in the military had taught him to always be ready. "They're hailing us, sir," said the communications officer. John nodded. "Open the channel." The screen flickered to life, showing a Valkyrie face. 6 amber eyes blinked in sequence. Metal-like scales reflected the light of their ship. Sharp teeth gleamed as the alien spoke. "Human vessel. You will dock at Bay 4. Any weapons will be seen as an act of war." The transmission cut off before John could respond. "Friendly bunch," muttered Frank, John's second in command. "They're predators, Frank. They respect strength, not words." John turned to his team. "Remember the mission. We're here to stop a war, not start one." The docking procedure took 30 minutes. John felt sweat on his back as the airlock hissed open. 6 Valkyrie warriors waited on the other side, each standing over 7 feet tall. Their clawed hands rested on plasma weapons. "Follow," growled the lead warrior. The diplomatic team walked through corridors that seemed too large for humans. The metal floors rang with each step. Strange smells filled the air, something like cinnamon mixed with copper. They entered a vast chamber with a high ceiling. Valkyrie officials sat on raised platforms. In the center stood a table made from what looked like bone. "Approach, humans," said a female Valkyrie. Her scales were darker than the others, almost black. "I am High Commander Cerex. You claim to want peace. Why should we believe you?" John stepped forward. "Commander, both our species have too much to lose in conflict. A loud crack interrupted him. John looked up to see a section of ceiling breaking loose directly above where 3 small Valkyrie cubs played in a corner. Without thinking, John sprinted across the room. He dove, grabbing the smallest cub and rolling away as chunks of metal crashed down. Dust filled the air. When it cleared, John found himself surrounded by armed Valkyrie, all pointing weapons at his head. The cub squirmed in his arms, making high-pitched sounds. "Release my child," Cerex said, her voice deadly quiet. John carefully set the cub down. It scampered to its mother, hiding behind her legs. "I was trying to help," John said, hands raised. "Help?" Cerex's voice rose. "You touched royal offspring. This is forbidden to all but family." The ceiling was falling. I reacted on instinct. Cerex's 6 eyes narrowed. "Humans claim to want peace while plotting to take our young. This meeting is over." "Wait," John said. "This is a misunderstanding." A Valkyrie guard struck John from behind. He fell to his knees as shouting filled the room. Frank pulled his weapon. A Valkyrie fired first. The room erupted in chaos. Plasma bolts flew in all directions. John saw Frank fall, a smoking hole in his chest. He tried to reach his friend, but something hit him hard in the back of the head. The world went dark. John woke to pain. His head throbbed. Cold metal pressed against his cheek. He pushed himself up, finding himself in a small cell with energy bars glowing blue across the entrance. A screen on the wall outside his cell showed Cerex addressing her people. The humans attempted to kidnap royal cubs during peace talks. This treachery will not stand. As of today, we are at war. The human species will answer for their crimes. John's heart sank. Everything had gone wrong. He heard footsteps approaching his cell. Guards coming for him, probably. A soft sound came from the corner of his cell. John turned slowly, squinting in the dim light. 3 pairs of amber eyes stared back at him from the shadows. 3 Valkyrie cubs huddled together, trembling. John froze as he stared at the 3 cubs. They pressed against each other in the corner, their small bodies shaking. One had a cut on its leg that leaked dark blue blood. "Hey there," John whispered, staying still. "I won't hurt you." The smallest cub made a soft chirping sound. Its scales were lighter than the others, almost silver in the dim light. John slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a ration bar. His last meal. He broke off a piece and placed it on the floor, then pushed it toward them. The hungry cubs watched with wide eyes but didn't move. "It's okay," John said. He took a small bite to show it was safe, then pushed the rest closer. The silver cub crept forward first, sniffing the food before grabbing it and retreating. The others followed, each taking a piece. Heavy footsteps approached. John positioned himself between the cubs and the cell entrance. A tall Valkyrie guard appeared, carrying a tray. "Back away, human," the guard ordered. John moved to the side. The guard deactivated part of the energy field and slid the tray through. The guard's eyes shifted to the dark corner. "What are you hiding?" "Nothing," John said quickly. The guard stepped closer, hand on his weapon. Then he saw the cubs. His 6 eyes widened in shock. "These are the High Commander's offspring," he whispered. "Everyone thinks they died in the fighting." "They're hurt," John said. "The small one is bleeding." The guard looked at John, then at the cubs, then back at the corridor. "I am Krev. If anyone finds them here, they will kill you and me both." "Help them," John pleaded. "They're innocent." Krev hesitated, then nodded. "I will return with supplies. Tell no one." After Krev left, John approached the injured cub. It hissed weakly but allowed him to examine the wound. "Brave little fighter," John murmured as he tore a strip from his shirt and wrapped it around the cub's leg. Hours passed. John shared his water with the cubs. They grew bolder, climbing onto his lap as he sat against the wall. Their body heat surprised him. They were much warmer than humans. Krev returned with medical supplies and extra food hidden under his uniform. "The war has begun," he said quietly as he helped John treat the cubs. 3 human colonies attacked already. John's stomach tightened. All because of a misunderstanding. The High Commander believes you tried to steal her cubs. Now she thinks they died in the chaos. Krev looked at the sleeping cubs. These 3 are the last of the royal bloodline. That night, John lay on the cold floor with the cubs curled against his chest for warmth. As he drifted to sleep, something strange happened. Images flashed in his mind. Alien landscapes, battles, memories that weren't his own. He saw Valkyrie ships, felt the pride of their warriors. He experienced the fear of a cub separated from its mother. The smallest cub twitched in its sleep, and John realized the images were coming from them. "A telepathic bond," he whispered in awe. More images came. A shadowy figure speaking to Sarex before the peace talks, whispering lies about humans. The same figure appeared in other memories, always in the background, always watching. John sat up, suddenly alert. Someone had manipulated both species into this war. A loud explosion rocked the prison. Alarms blared. The cubs woke, chirping in fear. The cell door blasted open in a shower of sparks. Through the smoke stepped High Commander Sarex, her plasma rifle aimed at John's head. Her 6 eyes widened in shock as she saw her cubs alive and curled against the human's chest. Sarex stood frozen, her weapon still aimed at John's head. Her cubs chirped and ran to her, rubbing against her legs. "They live," she whispered. Her eyes darted between John and her cubs. "What trick is this, human?" Before John could answer, another explosion rocked the prison. The lights flickered. "Commander," a voice called from the corridor. "We must leave now. The Zorathi are boarding." "Zorathi?" John asked, standing slowly. Sarex snarled. "A race we thought were allies. They attack without warning." The smallest cub climbed John's leg, clinging to his chest. It chirped urgently, sending images into his mind. Tall, insect-like creatures with 4 arms and glowing eyes. "They set us up," John said. "The Zorathi. They wanted our species to fight each other." Sarex grabbed John by the throat. "How do you know this?" "Your cubs showed me. We have a bond." John pointed to the cub on his chest. "They can share memories. I saw a Zorathi speaking to you before our meeting." Another blast shook the station. Closer this time. "Commander, please," John said. "I can help get your cubs to safety." Sarex released him. "If you try to escape or harm my cubs, I will tear you apart." "Understood." Sarex handed John a small plasma pistol. "Follow me." They ran through smoke-filled corridors. Alarms blared. Dead Valkyrie guards lay on the floor. The cubs kept pace, running on all 6 limbs. "The docking bay is 2 levels down," Sarex said. They turned a corner and came face to face with 3 Zorathi warriors. Tall, chitinous bodies. 4 arms holding energy weapons. Compound eyes glowing green. "The commander and the human," one hissed. "Kill them." Take the cubs. John fired first, hitting the lead Zorathi in the center mass. It screeched and fell. Sarex leaped forward with incredible speed, her claws slashing through another's armor. The third Zorathi aimed at Sarex's back. Without thinking, John threw himself into a roll, coming up in a fighting stance he'd never learned. His body moved with Valkyrie precision, dodging the energy blast and firing 3 shots into the Zorathi's head. Sarex stared at him. "How did you do that?" "Those were Royal Guard movements." John looked at his hands in surprise. "I don't know. I saw it in my mind." "The bond grows stronger," Sarex said. "We must hurry." They fought their way to the docking bay. John moved with new confidence, his body remembering Valkyrie combat techniques he'd never learned. The cubs stayed close, occasionally sending warning images of enemies ahead. They reached a small scout ship. Sarex rushed to the controls while John secured the cubs in safety harnesses. "Can you fly?" Sarex asked as the engines hummed to life. "I'm a pilot," John said, taking the co-pilot seat, "but not of Valkyrie ships." "Learn fast," Sarex growled as she lifted off. The bay doors opened to space. 3 Zorathi warships waited outside, their weapons charging. "Hold on," Sarex said, pushing the engines to full power. They shot from the bay as energy beams sliced through space around them. The ship rocked with near misses. "There," John pointed. "An asteroid field. We can lose them there." Sarex banked hard, diving toward the dense field of rocks. The Zorathi ships followed, firing continuously. "They're too close," Sarex said. "We won't make it." John placed his hand on the control panel. The smallest cub climbed onto his lap, placing its paw on his hand. Suddenly, John could see the ship's systems in his mind. "I can do this," he said, taking the controls. The ship responded to his touch like an extension of his body. He wove through asteroids at impossible speeds, the Zorathi falling behind. A direct hit rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed. "Engine damage," Sarex said. "We're losing power." John spotted a planet ahead, blue and green, with white clouds. "We need to land there." They entered the atmosphere, trailing smoke. The controls grew sluggish in John's hands. "Brace for impact," he shouted as they plummeted toward the surface. The ship crashed through trees and skidded across open ground before coming to a stop. Steam hissed from damaged systems. John checked the cubs. All safe. Sarex was bleeding but conscious. They stumbled from the wreckage into bright sunlight. John froze, staring at their surroundings. Ancient stone structures rose from the jungle, massive pillars covered in symbols. Some looked like early human writing. Others were clearly Valkyrie. "Impossible," Sarex whispered, looking at the ruins. The cubs chirped excitedly, running toward a central structure where a massive stone doorway stood open. Waiting, John and Sarex followed the cubs into the ancient structure. Sunlight streamed through cracks in the ceiling, illuminating dust particles in the air. The walls were covered with carvings, human figures standing alongside Valkyrie warriors. "This is impossible," Sarex said, touching the carvings. "Our histories never mentioned contact with humans before now." "Maybe our histories were changed," John replied. He watched the cubs exploring the chamber, sniffing at the stone floor. The smallest cub stopped at a circular platform in the center of the room. It chirped loudly, pawing at the stone. John approached and knelt beside it. "What is it, little one?" The cub placed its paw on John's hand. Images flooded his mind, ancient beings fleeing across space, pursued by Zorathi ships. The beings looked neither human nor Valkyrie, but something in between. "They're showing me something," John said. "Our ancestors. They were the same species once." Sarex growled in disbelief. "Impossible. Look at this." John pointed to a carving showing the mixed species splitting into 2 groups. One group developed more fur and smaller frames, becoming human. The other developed scales and extra limbs, becoming Valkyrie. "We were engineered to survive on different worlds," John said, "to hide from the Zorathi." The cubs gathered around a raised stone table. The largest cub jumped onto it and pressed its paw into a depression. The stone glowed blue. The floor rumbled, A hidden door slid open, revealing a staircase leading down. "They know this place," Sarek said, watching her cubs descend the stairs without hesitation. They followed the cubs into a vast underground chamber. At its center stood a massive machine, covered in the same symbols as the ruins above. "A weapon," Sarek whispered, recognizing the design. Ancient, but powerful. John approached the control panel. The smallest cub jumped onto his shoulders, chirping in his ear. More images filled his mind. How to activate the machine, how to use it against the Zarathi. "This could end the war," John said. "It can disable their ships without destroying them." Sarek stood beside him, her expression softer than before. "You truly care for my cubs." "They're innocent," John said. "Like all the innocent people dying in this war." A loud crash came from above. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They found us," Sarek said, drawing her weapon. John worked quickly at the control panel. "I need time to activate the defense system." "I will give you time," Sarek said. She turned to her cubs. "Stay with the human. He will protect you." Before John could protest, Sarek ran up the stairs toward the sound of Zarathi weapons. The cubs whimpered, sensing their mother's danger. John worked faster, his fingers moving across alien controls that somehow felt familiar. "Almost there," he muttered. A scream echoed from above. Sarek's in pain. The cubs cried out. John wanted to run to help but knew the defense system was more important. The machine hummed to life, lights blinking across its surface. A holographic display showed the planet and approaching Zarathi ships. Heavy footsteps descended the stairs. John turned, weapon ready. Sarek stumbled into the chamber, bleeding from multiple wounds. Behind her came 3 Zarathi warriors. "Get down," John shouted, firing at the ceiling above the entrance. Stone collapsed, crushing 1 Zarathi. The other 2 leaped clear. John pushed the cubs behind him and fired at the advancing aliens. 1 shot hit its mark, sending a Zarathi crashing to the floor. The other fired back, the energy blast grazing John's arm. Sarek attacked from the side, her claws tearing into the last Zarathi. It fell, but not before driving a blade deep into her side. "Sarek!" John ran to her as she collapsed. "Finish it," she gasped, blue blood pooling beneath her. "Save my cubs." John returned to the control panel. The defense system was ready, but needed final activation. A genetic key. "It needs Valkyrie DNA," John said. "Use mine," Sarek said weakly. "No," John replied. "You need medical attention." The smallest cub climbed onto the panel and bit John's hand. Blood welled up, both his and the cub's mixing together. The machine accepted it. The display showed the defense system targeting Zarathi ships. A blast shook the chamber. More Zarathi were coming. John turned to defend the cubs when an energy beam hit him squarely in the chest. Pain exploded through his body. He fell back against the machine, blood spreading across his shirt. The cubs gathered around him, crying out. As his vision darkened, John felt the cubs press against his chest. Their minds linked with his. Energy from the ancient machine pulsed through them all. John's consciousness began to merge with something vast and ancient as his body failed. Light filled John's mind. His body lay still on the stone floor, but his consciousness expanded outward. He could see the entire planet, the ships in orbit, the stars beyond. The cubs remained pressed against his chest, their minds linked with his. Through them, he connected to the ancient defense system. "I understand now," John thought. He reached out with his new awareness. First to the Zarathi troops approaching the temple. Their neural systems shut down instantly, bodies dropping to the ground. Next, he extended his reach to orbit. The Zarathi ships hung motionless as their systems failed. John found communication networks spanning across space. He could see both human and Valkyrie fleets engaged in battle. So much death, so much waste. "Hear me," John broadcast to both fleets. His voice echoed in every ship, every communication device. "I am John Mercer. I speak with the authority of those who came before us. Humans and Valkyrie are not enemies. We are one species divided long ago to escape the Zarathi threat." He sent images to prove his words, the ancient ruins, the carvings, genetic data stored in the defense system. The Zorathi manipulated us into war. They wanted us to destroy each other so they could claim our worlds. In the human flagship, Admiral Carter stared at his screen in shock. Is this real? On the Valkyrie command vessel, war leaders watched the same evidence with growing anger, not at humans, but at the Zorathi deception. John directed the defense system to disable all Zorathi weapons across their fleet. You have a choice, he told both human and Valkyrie commanders. Continue fighting each other or unite against our true enemy. The response came quickly. Human and Valkyrie ships turned their weapons toward the disabled Zorathi fleet. In the temple chamber, Syrinx crawled to John's side. Human, she whispered, seeing his still body. John. The cubs chirped sadly, still connected to his mind. I can't hold this form much longer, John told Syrinx through their mental link. The system is breaking down. Tell me what to do, Syrinx said. Lead our people. End this war. Remember, we are one. Above, the combined human and Valkyrie forces overwhelmed the Zorathi. Victory came at a heavy cost, thousands dead on both sides. John felt his consciousness fading as the ancient system failed. His connection to the cubs weakened. Goodbye, he thought to them. The smallest cub bit his hand again, drawing fresh blood. The other cubs did the same. Their blood mixed with his. Syrinx placed her hand on John's chest. Return to us, she commanded. Your body lives. Your mind can return. John felt a pull. The vast awareness contracted, focusing down to a single point of light. Pain returned, the wound in his chest, the weight of his body. He gasped, eyes opening. The cubs jumped and chirped excitedly on his chest. You live, Syrinx said, relief in her voice. How long? John asked, his throat dry. 3 days. The war is over. John sat up slowly, wincing. The Zorathi? Defeated. Our fleets work together now. 6 months later, John stood in a grand hall on Earth. Human and Valkyrie leaders gathered around a table. The peace treaty waited for final signatures. John wore a formal uniform with both human and Valkyrie insignia. The 3 cubs, larger now, refused to leave his side. They had become symbols of the new alliance. Syrinx approached, her battle armor replaced with ceremonial robes. The Council has approved the genetic research. Soon we will understand how our species diverged. And perhaps find a way to reunite, John said. We already have, Syrinx replied, looking at her cubs sleeping peacefully against John's legs. Admiral Carter called for attention. Today marks a new chapter for both our peoples. From enemies to allies, from strangers to family. John felt the smallest cub climb up to his chest, its favorite spot. It purred contentedly. They wanted revenge, John whispered to Syrinx, but found family instead. Syrinx placed her hand on John's shoulder. Some bonds transcend blood and time. As leaders from both worlds signed the treaty, John knew their journey was just beginning. The cubs would grow. The alliance would face challenges. But together, they were stronger than any force in the galaxy. The smallest cub looked up at John and sent him a single image. Stars spread out before them, waiting to be explored together.